Let's say you're interested in trading the hottest sector in the markets presently, the pot names, the cannabis stocks, but you're lacking quality traders to follow. You're not sure what stocks to trade or track. Well, in this video, we introduce a must follow in this space. Stick around. You're about to become much more knowledgeable about how to trade the pot stocks from the very best in the space. Hi, Mike Bellafiore, managing partner of S&B Capital, a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan. And I'm also the author of the trading classic, One Good Trade, and the Playbook. Click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of the trading videos produced for our trading community. In this video, we are very fortunate to introduce Todd Harrison, founder of CB1 Capital, which is a long-short healthcare hedge fund focusing on the cannabis sector. He's also a former hedge fund and institutional trader and founder of Minionville. Well, he visits our proprietary trading desk in New York to share his trading knowledge on cannabis stocks. Todd has been first in advocating to invest and trade in this sector and is the go-to trader on the street for analysis and trade ideas on cannabis stocks. In this video, you're going to learn the best pot names to track, what stocks Todd views as undervalued and overvalued, his view on TLRY, which we've all been trading, good entries for the most active names in this space, the answers to questions from our traders shot to Todd on our desk. Join this conversation with our prop traders and the go-to trader on the street in the cannabis sector. If you want to follow Todd's work more carefully, you can subscribe to their morning update newsletter by visiting cb1cap.com. Just click in the upper right corner that link and start receiving these invaluable daily updates on the hottest sector in the markets. All right, so Todd, welcome. For those of you who do not know, which I think is nobody, Todd has been a hedge fund trader, institutional trader, now founded CB1 Capital, which is a short-long fund focusing on the healthcare sector specifically, and all the stuff we've been trading, the cannabis, pot, marijuana, however you want to frame it, sector. And so we wanted to reach out to you and talk to you a little bit about, you've been a first mover, one of the first guys in the space who have pointed out the investments and trades opportunity in the marijuana names, pot names, cannabis sector. And so we wanted to have you in and talk to you about some particular stocks, particularly, and I think I want to start here. So we've been trading a lot of this TLRY lately. What the heck is going on in your opinion?
Why are you guys trading TLRY? There's so many stocks out there. Well, thank you, Mike. I've known you for a long time. He's always been one of the good guys. So you guys are very fortunate to have a Sherpa such as Mike. So I've been trading 30 years since I was 7. Just kidding. You guys are really young too. I've been trading 30 years, and I know you guys are momentum types, from what I understand. Just as a little framework, I look at the market through 4 lenses, or as I like to say, 4 legs under the table. You have the fundamentals, you have the technicals, you have the structural, and you have the psychology. And the more the legs you have under the table, the higher the odds of success, in my opinion. And that's how I've learned to look at opportunities, and certainly doesn't mean that they all work out. But as I said, it's about a probability spectrum and trying to capture that probability spectrum in a very risk-oriented way. So what I thought would be helpful is to talk a little bit about cannabis. I know you guys are ticker driven, and I won't talk about Tilray, but I think context is always important. And the context here, I think, is really important because a lot of people are looking at this as a second coming of crypto or the second coming of the dot-com, and certainly when you have stocks like Tilray trading the way they're trading, it lends to that dialogue. I think, personally, Bitcoin is the best thing that ever happened to cannabis. Everybody was out chasing the bright, shiny objects, and there's real efficacy being discovered here, real science-driven results that are really, really exciting. And I say that as I kind of take a step back and to understand, really the opportunity set here. I always talk about cannabis as this this rabbit hole for the intellectually curious, right? I fell upon it for reasons which aren't really important, but suffice to say, for me, it was an opportunity to get away from a lot of the prescription poison. It was treating PTSD after 9/11. Facts aren't insults. But to me, it was really an opportunity to explore this because as somebody who has been to 60 Grateful Dead shows and never seen a fight, and just think that the social utility outweighs the risk, and I think certainly has been a real focal point for criminal injustice over the years. But the way this all started, just as a little context, is in the 30s, the pharmaceutical companies were actually prescribing cannabis as medicine. Eli Lilly, you can go online and see bottles of cannabis that they were treating. And what was happening was in the 30s, you had William Randolph Hearst and the DuPonts and the other elite looked at cannabis, or as they came to call it, marijuana, and hemp as a threat to their business empires. The Hearsts in particular with paper and so forth, and they called on their friend Henry Anslinger, who was the DEA, and next thing you know, cannabis and hemp, marijuana and hemp were outlawed. Now the AMA did not know what marijuana was because obviously they would try to stop it. By the time they figured out what was going on, it was too late. And what you've had ever since is propaganda. Probably too old to remember Reefer Madness, and you're probably too old to remember This Is Your Brain on Drugs, but there's been a concerted war on drugs in this country for a long time, and it's clogged up the prison systems, and it's really just done so much harm and potentially done so, I said on Real Vision before I came here, I think the U.S. government has blood on their hands. There's been so much unnecessary suffering and so many potentially unnecessary deaths because we've sat on this as the efficacy side of this. The government sat on it for so long. Nixon's on tape saying bury the data, blaming the Jews. This goes on and on. So the more we dug, the more we realized it was there. And it was when I came upon a company called GW Pharmaceuticals, which is plant-based efficacy. It's probably one, you can pull it up, this is probably the best looking chart you'll ever see. Understand the stock just ran from 140, 135 to 170, I think it closed. This really for me encapsulates cannabis because it's misunderstood. If you look and you kind of scratch beneath the surface, you're going to find a stock that has 8 analysts. They're all basing the entirety of their price targets on Epidiolex, which is the recently approved FDA drug to treat childhood onset epilepsy, reducing seizures by 50%. In many cases, children who are seizing 300 times are now seizure-free. This is impact investing. This is not discretionary vice. You have to frame this. I'm going to be all over the place, but there's 2 sides. There's the one that's a CPG, beverage, nutraceutical side. It's going to be huge. That's what Coca-Cola is looking at, and Molson and so forth. And on this side, you have wellness and efficacy. And that's what we're really focused on because we think that's the part that's really not priced into the market. And GW encapsulates that in my eyes because you have 8 analysts, they're basing their price targets on epilepsy. And if you're paying attention, their glioma brain cancer trial, phase 2 endpoints were great last February of 2017. They couldn't release secondary endpoints because too many people were still surviving brain cancer. That was February of 2017. It's now September of 2018. Somebody who's good at math can tell you that's a long time to be surviving with brain cancer. They still can't close the trial. But if you're paying attention, you'll see that their new chief medical officer they hired last year did his doctorate in glioblastoma. So we think GW is an oncology platform dressed up as an epilepsy platform. We don't think the street gets it. What the market hasn't priced in is that there's efficacious agility to this plant. It's not for epilepsy and anxiety, stress, pain, appetite, right? But then you start talking about Alzheimer's, cancer. You go down the line. If you understand the science, and not many people do, and even the people who do will tell you that we don't understand a lot more than we do understand, but we have what's called the endocannabinoid system in our bodies. Anything what the vertebrae does, it regulates neurotransmissions, and the belief system is that over the last 75 to 100 years, we've gone from hunters and gatherers to desk jobs, and gone from eating healthy foods, eating processed foods and trans fats and chemicals, and the tone of our endocannabinoid system changed, and voila, all of these pernicious, terrible diseases from cancer to ALS, go down the line. They believe, the scientists we talk to believe that there's a connection. The doctors we speak to think we're fucking crazy, right? The biotech analysts, the big pharma analysts that we talk to on the street think we're nuts, right? They never studied this because it's Schedule 1, so you don't know what you don't know. Right? And certainly even those who do know will tell you there's a lot we don't know, but what we do know is that the cannabinoids found in cannabis are identical in action to what your body naturally produces. Everybody thinks a runner's high is endorphins, but it's not. It's an endocannabinoid called AEA. It's identical in action to THC. So that feeling you get when you work out is the same feeling you get when you get high, all right? And that's what's going to be priced in our opinion, in the next phase. So when we're looking at our risk, we're looking across all geographies, US, Canada, South America, Australia, Europe, Africa's coming online. I mean, this is a global dynamic. And then across that, we look at our verticals: cultivation, dispensaries, biotech, laboratories, extraction. I think what's going to surprise a lot of people is how ubiquitous cannabis is going to be throughout industries. And if you do the math, there's about $60 to $70 billion maybe of global cannabis equities. Call it 100 billion, you factor in all the private guys, right? 100 billion. Cannabis right now is a cash crop, is a $300 billion cash crop. Flower, which is the plant. So if you contemplate cannabis and hemp as ingredients for bath bombs and medicine and building materials and just keep going, you're talking about $2 to $3 trillion industry in 10 years. Realistically, right? I mean, do the math. So you're talking about 100 billion maybe in business right now to a $2 to $3 trillion industry in 10 years. And that's what's in the process of being priced in. Now you have a government that is trying to tamper this because they don't make money on drugs from state dispensaries. They're pushing this thing to medicine prescribed by doctors covered by insurance, like it is in Germany, like it is in Canada, and it's going to be in Australia, and go down the line because it's efficacious and has de minimis side effects. And oh, by the way, THC is one cannabinoid. CBD is another cannabinoid. There's hundreds. CBN for sleep. I mean, the THCV will get you high and reduce your appetite. All right? And then you get high, just for the record, we talk about medical, but I think, adult use, recreational, medical, it's semantics, right? People have been self-medicating for so long, they don't know that they're self-medicating, they just know they like it. And, this is all going to get sorted out as Wall Street adopts this, as they will. So, geographies, we're looking, Canada the most mature, obviously. And yes, it's nice to buy canopy at 30 and sell it at 70, but there's people who own this thing at pennies, right? That's what's going on now in the US and in Australia. You're picking up companies, I look at Canada is the head, US is the body, Australia is the tail. And then you have biotech, which is really just a separate conversation. And you see the capital flows. You see the capital flowing from US listed Canadian majors to Canadian listed majors to mid majors to periphery to the other verticals, to the US guys, and then to Australia, which still is near year-to-date lows. I'm sitting there every night buying Australian stocks, like the same way I was buying GW at 138 last week. I don't understand why the stock's not rallying. People don't know what they don't know. So what I'm hoping will be helpful from a trading standpoint is to get you away from chasing Tilray's tail, because it's crowded, and the opportunities aren't in what's crowded. The opportunities are in what people don't know yet. They don't know what they don't know. And what I'm trying to do on Twitter is take a flashlight and illuminate some of these opportunities. Not as advice, not to talk on my book. I actually hate that part of it, but I say, to sit there for a year and watch good news hit the tape for your stocks and them not move because nobody knows it's good news, because nobody's covering it and no institutions own it, nobody's going to defend it. It's maddening. So we're trying to help people to understand that this is a healthcare story and a wellness story, and it's misunderstood. And GW, I think, encapsulates that. That's a pretty chart. Now, I've traded, I've lived, breathed, and died this thing. I'm telling you, God is my witness. This stock is the most misunderstood stock that's in existence right now. And efficacious agility is not priced in, because if it was, it'd be $1,000 right now. And I'm not saying it's going there, but I'm saying it could. All right, and we own it. But as we look around, we'll stick with the biotech theme, something like a Corbis, CRBP. Now, we're buying this because of their CB2, the work they're doing with the CB2 receptor. And we've sat with this thing for, I don't know, pull it back. I mean, we sat with this, no, that's GW, pull Corbis, CRBP kind, CRBP. There we go. No. You'll see, this stock is just, as we call it, this has been a bottom right stock for us, which is the bottom right hand side of the chart, which you know, you could say, you know, as I like to say, the trader in me gets really bummed out about that. The investor in me gets really psyched about that, because we sat there for the last, you know, 8 months and we're just buying it as, you know, we're just averaging into a fairly decent sized position this morning. It was about a 5% position for us. And then, you know, there's some news this morning that they're buying a cannabinoid portfolio, and then I guess the news, the reason it got excited was that the CEO is going to be on Mad Money tonight, which, you know, is fine. You know, I'm along it. I'm happy they're getting any exposure, but what I look at is 23% short. Of the 23% of the float is short. The 7 analysts who cover the stock closed at $485 yesterday. 7 analysts have an average price target of $36. Pardon me, high analyst is 36. The average is about 30, around 30. Stock is, where's it closed? $7.95. I actually sold some at $7.95, and on my way over here, I called up my desk. I said, buy that stock back. Why am I selling this stock? Because, you know, Jim's going to go out there and talk about it tonight and get excited, and people are going to look for the next GW, and there's going to be a retail, you know, frenzy to buy the stock, and 23% of the float is short. So let the stock work for us. So we'll sell it on a little bit on the way up to stay somewhere near a 5% position, but we think the stock probably has a 20 handle on it. You know, we think it's a biotech. It could have a 0 handle, but you know, you play the probability spectrum. One more on the biotech side that I talk about on Twitter, because I figure if I talk about all the stocks, then I can never get in trouble talking about stocks, because you know, all I'm doing is talking about what we're buying, and I try not to trade it after we talk about it. But Vibio, VBIO-Kind. Now this is an interesting company. This is also a biotech company that we own, and we've been buying it. We paid as high as 2. We've just been buying it, and I'm not selling it anymore. I'm wondering if that's a W pattern. I love W patterns. I'll show you some more. W patterns to me stands for win, and win big. It's a little bit of a kind of a crooked W, but I think you see, you know, 220, 240. If you can get through that level, it's got some room. You could probably pull it back one more time frame, and you'll see. But this is another, you know, what they're doing. Is attaching glycosol molecules to THC that have an affinity for the gut. So for IBS and those types of conditions, THC is very therapeutic. They're anti-inflammatories, right? It doesn't get you high. So for children, you know, to be able to use a THC compound that doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, I don't know. Sounds like it's an interesting opportunity. It's right in our wheelhouse. Maybe a little cup and handle if you want to look at it that way, So that's, you know, the biotech side. But when we look at sort of the universe of cannabis companies, you know, everybody's looking at Tilray, and mazel tov that you guys have made money from what I understand, but walk away. You know, I actually had put spreads on this thing, and I took 150 right in the teeth, 150 point rally, and I sold them I took $1 loss. $1 loss on 100 and something point rally. And so my grandfather taught me if the dealer puts money in front of you, you take the money. I took the money. Sure enough, as soon as I took the money, the stock dropped 150 points, but you can't think like that in this business, right? So it was a hedge against GW and others. I'm not touching Tilray. Let everybody else stand in a circle, shoot each other. These are real opportunities that, in my opinion, you want to be in the ones that people aren't talking about on CNBC yet, right? Because by the time Jim gets a hold of these things, it's like the cat's out of the bag. This is the time to do the work. And again, technicals are great, but as we saw in crypto, if everybody's using one metric to trade an asset class, it never made sense to me, right?
Is there a particular price that Tilray gets you interested?
60.
That's why some guys here were short.
I understand, but you know,
and it's been
no, and I get it.
You couple of weeks,
right? But you ever see A Beautiful Mind? Right? Everybody's looking at that one trade in the middle, but if you kind of look on the periphery, there are these 2 trades that are probably better odds. Same thing, right? Like the more Canopy and Tilray and all, we don't own the majors. We owned Free on the way up. We owned a bunch of them on the way up, but they get to a point, it's like, what's my edge now? Right? I'm battling 18 other people who think that they have an edge, and 18, I mean, billions of dollars, 18 million. But my point is, you look at some of these things and you see the volume bars, right? Like if you pull up Canopy for a second, CGC. I mean, everything you want to know about the stock, you can see in the volume bars, because this has been, you know, I don't know if you have volume here, you can add volume. Yeah, I mean, you'd see, it taking shape, and, the implied call for Constellation's about 37.10, so I've been telling myself, when this thing gets, I can't walk over there, but if you draw that line across those two tops from earlier this year, you get about $37, as the case may be. That's the implied option for Constellation. I've been trying to buy this thing at 40. I've missed it 4 times now. It's maddening, but patience brings price, and if it doesn't, there are other opportunities, other trades, other investments. I want to own this. I think this is the Facebook of the fangivization of cannabis. I think GW is the Amazon. The others are still sorting themselves out, but at the right price, right? This is 40-something% over its 200-day, and at the right price, I want to buy it. But if it's not the right price, there are other things that I want to buy. So let's look at some of those. Village Farms in Canada, VFF. This is North America's biggest tomato farmer, pivoted to cannabis. We found this last summer at about $1.50. Still, by far, the cheapest LP on the board. You talk about W patterns. This thing, I might have that tattooed on my chest. I mean, this thing is beautiful, and it's by far the cheapest LP out there, right? And you get this thing up a couple bucks, a couple 50 cents, and you can lean against it all day until the cows come home. So, this is the type of situation. Everybody's trying to find the Canopies of the world, and this is the cheapest bet on the board. It's my analyst telling me, and then you have Canacords of the world and GMPs of the world. So you can kind of form a matrix of thought around, the people you trust. I've always found this was the whole concept behind Minionville. You find those 4 or 5 opinions you trust, and you build a matrix of those people, and you come to a conclusion. But this, to me, has enough going for it. The psychology, obviously, fundamentals, cheapest bet on the board. Structurally, Canadian LP, it's a free call option on US. They got huge property in the US. As soon as US decrims, this becomes the cheapest US play immediately. And then fundamentals, technical, structural, psychology, check the boxes, boom, right? This is one that is restricted. We don't touch it. All right. Another one, CanTrust. It's a little bit of a creepier W, but here's the stock that I was alluding to earlier. That from a metric standpoint is exactly what pretty much sales. The whole profile is Tilray. The only difference is it listed in Canada as opposed to the Nasdaq. Same pattern, right? Say if Tilray is worth 100, this is right there with it. Right? There's no reason that Tilray is trading at a premium for this. I was long this in GW, short Tilray. The hedge served its purpose. I didn't get eaten alive by it. I'm not going against it again. This is the type of stock that I think if you want to own a Canadian LP, Village Farm, CannTrust, Organigram, OGI, those are names that are real companies with real vision and real management that are just not getting the love because people don't know what they don't know. OGI, Organigram, is that it? No, that's in London. You have OGI.scn. It's going to be much the same, okay? Organigram is OGI, there it is, Organigram Holdings. All right, little extended, I've been waiting for it to pull back, it hasn't pulled back, so I have, call it 3/4 of a position here. Leave a little in my pocket, but, as we saw with Tilray, and we saw with Canopy, and as we saw during the .com, for those who were old enough to remember, ask your parents, when stocks took off, they didn't give you a chance to get in. And by the time they did, it was already like the animal spirits came. This is very much .com, except a lot of the stock prices, at least the ones in the US and Australia, are open-ended call options. And you have problems, structural problems in the US because of banking, obvious political headwinds, all this hair. And thank God, because if it wasn't hair, you wouldn't be buying the stocks, you wouldn't buy the stocks here. Cautionary note. So once Canada legalizes on October 17th, they're going to be in contravention of UN treaty. Very possible this thing gets hijacked by a particular US government official who might want to embarrass Canada and talk tough against the space, especially if they have a motivated financial interest to push this through the FDA as opposed to. So we think that as soon as Monday, you're going to see some tough talk out of the White House on cannabis, in particular Canada, on October 17th, right? Because when Uruguay legalized recreational as a precedent, it got froze out by the international community. We're seeing similar hints from Germany and others that once Canada legalizes recreational, they're going to be in contravention of UN treaties. All of these stocks are priced for global growth. That's why people are buying them. If that gets called into question, just hold your nose and duck. But when these names come down, when they throw the babies out with the bathwater, we're going to be sitting there buying them because they're going to figure it out, right? But it's a very emotional market, as everybody probably could tell. All right, so we talked on Canada, we talked on Bio. Let's look at a couple of U.S. names. Start with Canada Royalty. CRZ is the ticker in Canada. This is probably one of the cheapest ways to play. Now, the thing to remember with cannabis, you want to stay away from the farming, right? Because it's a commodity at a certain point. Africa's coming online, Australia's coming online. There's going to be more, more cannabis than you know what to do with. And that's the bear thesis, right? Prices are coming down. Woo! Best thing that could possibly happen to this industry, because if you contemplate cannabis as an ingredient, it's nothing more than an input cost. So it's nothing more than wheat to Anheuser-Busch, right? The lower wheat goes, the better it is for Anheuser-Busch's margin because they're selling the end products. Same thing. Canada Royalty, very similar chart, right? Cheap gets. Oh, they own the brands, they own the end products. That's where the margins are, right? Because it's more, because cannabis gets less expensive, margins get better for the brands that are using cannabis as ingredients, the end products, the vapes, bath bombs, consumer packaged goods. Remember, don't think of this as like getting high. Think about this as, this is going to be a ubiquitous ingredient. Hemp can build everything from houses to plastic composites to clothing, right? This is the most agile freaking crop in the world. It's already the #1 cash crop in the world, and it's illegal. What does that tell you, right? This is going to there's going to be a farming renaissance 2.0, right? Canada Royalty's position, right? We're not looking for the front end, we're looking for the back end. That's what they do, and they're the best at it. And if you know the Sprott money, the Sprott Asset Management up in Canada, smart money, they got money in here, big money. So follow the money, follow the smart money. Another U.S. name, Liberty Health, which is LHS. And what I look for in these types of names are names that are still well below the January highs, right? This is one that we were buying, buy another 100, down to like 62 cents, 70 cents. This was, you can probably go into like the last 2018, just 1 year. This was spun off by Freya because there was listing problems with Canada, with the TSX, and said you're not going to be able to list in, anybody who holds U.S. assets is going to get kicked off. So they spun this out, went from 2.5 in January to 62 cents last month, I should say. Looks to me like it's flagging. This thing easily, I think, should get back to January highs. And it's a call option. You're buying these things for 75 cents, I'm sorry. The risk is because it's a U.S. operator, they can't do debt structures, so their only source of raising capital is to dilute the stock. Okay, it's, when in Rome, it's the only way that they can stay in business. That's going to change, right? Mnuchin's already said banking's the #1 priority for him for cannabis because people walking around with bags of cash is not tenable. This is a great stock, especially if it could bounce back a little bit more, get through that where it does that congestion at $1. But I'm surprised. I thought this thing. Oh, this is the U.S. kind. Okay, this is LHSIF. All right, same chart in Canada, slightly higher price point, 1.3 times higher price point. So LHS is another one. U.S. operators, we think, are going to be, this is Florida based. We think Florida is going to be ground zero. Why? 3.5 times the national prescription average. If you understand cannabis, you understand the de minimis side effects, and you understand that the older you get, the tone of your endocannabinoid system changes. So who's the best beneficiary for that is the elderly, right? If you ever see anybody who has a grandmother, you see an elderly person just cannabis, come alive, right? They freaking come alive. I wish my grandfather was still alive. I'd be slipping Mickeys all day long. It's good for you the older you get. If you think about it, just take a step back. I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. What is Alzheimer's? What is dementia? It's your mind, the degradation of your mind, stagnation of your mind. What does THC do? Stimulates brain activity. I mean, it's not rocket science. It just makes sense. And these clinical trials are coming through. And until the clinical trials show it, the doctors are, oh no, this is bad for you. This is a gateway drug. This is a gateway drug, right? In states where cannabis is legal, 25% less deaths from opioid addiction. Right? This is a gateway drug. It's a gateway away from death. Nobody's ever died from cannabis because you have very sparse endocannabinoid receptors in your brainstem. Your brainstem controls your lungs. One more U.S. name I'm trying to think.
What are your thoughts on CRON?
Kronos?
Yeah.
You know, Kronos had a great acquisition with this biosynthetic. That's going to be really big, you know, because you can now formulate at a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the time. There's a company, IMLFF, that I talk about that is a 70-cent play. Not for long, I think. They are probably the best biosynthetic company out there. It's a small biotech company. But this, you talk about call options. Like this thing was a couple bucks in January, and you know, yeah, I go walking every day. We call her the MILF. You know, IMLFF. Like, how's the MILF today? You know, oh, she's down. I buy some more. You know, it's a biotech, so there's risk. But you know, you have Organogram did a biotech, a biosynthetic deal. You have Kronos did a biosynthetic deal. Eric Adams is a smart CEO. So this is another one of the positions we own. I typically try to stay away from talking about names this small, but when you have an opportunity this big, I think it warrants it. Kronos, we want to buy it. We want to buy it closer to 8. You know, we'd even buy it closer to 10. You know, in hindsight, but you know, it's expensive because you have the U.S. premium, right? Anything that's listed on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange is way expensive. Now, could that continue to continue? Yes. What is, you know, as an institution, what's their first priority when they want to buy something? How liquid is it, right? So these more liquid cannabis companies are going to hold more liquidity because that's the first thing that an institution needs to check is if I need to get out, can I? So Kronos, you know, great looking chart. You see that W over there? So you could probably lean against 1280. I told my guys if it gets back towards 13, buy some, stop it out under 1250. We'll trade the majors when the setups are there, but we'll invest in the names that people don't know about yet because that's what the upside is in our opinion. The last U.S. name, MPXCF, we call it the quiet giant. This is a company that's going to do probably 100 million in next year, 300 million in 2020. You know, GTI is, to the moon. GTII, another one of the companies we own. This is not far behind from a fundamental standpoint, and you can put the two over each other and and do the work. So that's GTII, and you have MPXCF, which is I won't say it's on par, but it's not far behind. And you see it, MPXCF. There we go. MPX Biotech. So you can pick that one. Right? Nothing, right? Nothing to write home about. Hasn't really done much. This is a company that focuses on end products. It's got the right management, right footprint. They just did a deal up in Canada, to get patient count. Nobody's doing this work. There's no analysts that are covering stock. I mean, now they're starting to in Canada. Canaccord's great, GMP's great, Echelon's a few others. But until Morgan Stanley initiates coverage with a buy, nobody's going to give a shit, and nobody's going to buy it because it's called the cover your ass from a portfolio manager. Why'd you buy GWPH? I don't know, because I thought it was going higher. You're fired. Why'd you buy GWPH? Morgan Stanley just recommended it. Oh, okay. It's just the nature of the beast. And it's going to happen because there's way too much money going around now for Wall Street to ignore it. So all these conferences that I went to in the last couple of years, when I saw Putnam and Vanguard and Goldman walking around, I'm like, they're just barbarians at the gate right now. MPX is another one. So Ianthus, you might as well pick. Ianthus is great. They just did a secondary 655 a few days ago. Look at this one. IAN in Canada. There's ITHUF here in the US. The second, they put 30 million on the tape at 655 on Friday. Ask me how I know, right? Can't keep a good stock down, right? This is a CEO that prices a secondary so his investors can make money. Happy for it. God bless him. Again, you're looking for the fangification of U.S. names. There's a bit of a, elbowing going on, but they're right in there. MPX is right in there. GTI is right in there. We think Liberty could be in there. All right? You want to find these names before the institutions find these names, because when the institutions find these names, just hold on, right? You're front running, and you're allowed. It's beautiful. God bless America. We did U.S. We did Canada. Let's look at some Australian names. You guys trade Australia at all?
Not much.
Not much? Is it worth it to go
Are
through?
you looking at, so in the last couple of days, got
TLRY has a little bit of a down move. Are you doing some work to sort of see, hey, what's holding up?
Yeah, no, I thought today was really constructive. I wanted to see how the periphery holds up when this air comes out of this thing, and it trades as it should, Yeah, record short interest in the space, except for Canopy, which was interesting. Canopy short interest came way down. But for the cannabis space, you got record shorts. And I'm telling you, they're looking at it, saying, who's going to smoke all this weed? They don't understand the story, right? It's a beautiful thing. You want to see record shorts. Corbis, I told you I sold 25 because we made $3 on a $5 stock overnight. And like, process is process. And I bought it back because I'm like, we think this is going to 20. Why am I selling it at 8? I'll probably sell it tomorrow at 10, and if not, I'm happy to hold it. But we'll sell a little at 10 because it's the process. I always try to trade a little in between because this is a very, very tough business, right? You make, the decisions you make in an instant, to use the trading places, quote, kids don't go to college and your wife's sleeping with the dry, I don't know what it is. But the point being, like, this is very easy to beat yourself up in this business. And I know that because I do that, I'm not gonna lie. But if you adhere to your process, the process is the process is the process. Like, I was selling some GW calls yesterday because it was up, $15, $20 from where I bought them, because that's part of the process. And thank God. Right? Stock collapsed. It goes flat. And I'm like, thank God I sold 250 of those calls. Today the stock was, $15 above that. Did I look back and go, wow, if I held those calls, I would have made another $500,000? Of course I did. I'm human. But it's a process, right? And you just, as long as you stick to your process, then markets can change, stocks can change, anything can change, and you're going to be okay because you have your process down. So my process is the 4 legs under the table. It's doing a little bit in between so that you have a little trading inventory and trying to, as my wife says, you got to look forward, and she's right, especially when it comes to trading, you got to look forward. I think everybody's looking back on cannabis. They're saying, oh, this is your brain on drugs. And every time we walk in to meet with investors, I'm like, did you bring any samples? I just, kind of smile because people don't get it. They're going to get it. All these people who, I don't know, I would never invest in that. So advice, okay, I'll see you in 5 years when Goldman's, this is my #1 industry in 2022, and that's when you want to short the space. But you got a lot of legs. Wall Street has to educate itself. Not as simple as dropping seeds in the ground and saying I'm in the cannabis business. The science, the curriculum for cannabinoid wellness just started last year, right? So, timestamp this. You got 4 years of, I'm not those schools, but we got a couple years before this starts getting official. When I started at Morgan Stanley in '91, we were pricing off-board derivatives for Cisco, Dell, Microsoft. They were selling these puts instead of buying stock. It was brilliant. Went through a tax loophole. God gazumped. Everybody made money until the market crashed. Point being, when we first started pricing these products, we were winning by 50, 60, 70 vols because we were the only ones making a market. A year later, we were winning or losing by half a penny. That's what's going to happen to cannabis. This is going to get efficient because there's too much money. And you'll see the village farms and the cannabis and the organic grams go up and the Tilrays go down. But, pick your spots. Like, we look at the majors, like, okay, 37 to 40, I'm buying Canopy. Perfect. If it goes to 80 this year and I don't buy it, God bless, because if Canopy's at 80, I got 15 million shares of stock that are probably higher. So, take some questions, yes, is helpful.
Let's do it.
Yes, no?
Yeah.
Very question. Do you look into market caps, like, into some of these, like, on that OGI one?
Yep.
Like, I don't dig that deep. Like, I just go on the website.
Yep.
OTC Markets, market cap 400 million. Then, like, my buddy's like, dude,
It's not fully diluted, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but clearly I have, and it's funny, I look at market caps daily because I know that that's what other traders are doing. They're going down the list, and they're like, oh, this one's only worth 500 million and that one was worth, 8 billion, let's buy this one. So, like, it's frustrating sometimes because stocks that we know are dog shit are going up, and then stocks that we know are good are not going up because, the market caps are higher. But, if you believe markets are efficient over a course of time, and I'm talking about a market that has, in my experience, anytime an artificial impediment is introduced to a free market, you got two things. You got unintended consequences and you get moral hazard, right? You saw it in 2008 for those who were trading. Who was trading in 2008? That's kind of this question. Who was born during the Asian contagion of 1998? Don't answer that question, please. But, I forgot what my point is. Did I answer your question? Yes, I look at it, but that's sort of like a poor man's way of like, how do I get exposure? Good for a trade, but you know, the diligence required for an investment, like there has to be a certain threshold for us to say, we're gonna buy this stock, I think the market's going down, and I'm still gonna own 7 figures of this thing because I wanna potentially own 8 figures one day if it keeps going down, so.
So do you look at fully diluted then, like a 9%
Yeah.
stock?
Yeah, but I also have it printed by what's on Bloomberg, because that's what traders are going off of.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if I thought watching the grass grow was gonna help me figure out where stock was going, I'd be on all fours. That didn't come out right. Any other questions? I love to talk about this. I probably talk a little bit too much, but again, Tilray is Tilray. I understand the bright and shiny object. There's the story here. You know, pull up HMMJ. I'll show you a little. Show you how I'm looking at the world here. HMMJ is the Canadian Cannabis Proxy. If it didn't break out to an all-time high today, it was pretty freaking close. Is that back to, no, go back to January, please. This is a, yeah, go year to date. There we go. All right, yeah, breakout, yay, bull market. You know, now pull up BIGLI, it'll pop up. There we go, BI Global Cannabis Competitive Period. Now pull up a 1-year chart of that. GPO. GPO. There we go. No, I'll use this, it's fine. Look at this chart compared to the Canadian chart, all right? Now, what you can see here is the 200-day moving average is right about 268, right? People talking about cannabis as a bubble. Maybe in December I say, yeah, I got a little frothy. Did I sell enough? No, because I'm an idiot. What can I say? But here, this isn't a bubble. This is a year-long base that's breaking out. And as I said to my investors in July when we were just taking a shit sandwich in the teeth every day, I said, we're going to make a higher high. I didn't expect it to happen in a month, like it did in Canada. But what I learned by looking at this versus Canada is the opportunities are in the US, the opportunities are in Australia and Europe, they're around the world, right? Just pull up AC8. AC8. Now here's a company in Australia called Auscan that has Canopy owns, I think, 9.9% of this thing. All right? Yeah, nice run from, I guess, mid-2017. But look what it's done this year. Nothing. Ask me how I know. Because every night I go in there and I buy a little bit more. Because you're going to wake up one day and the stock's going to be a $3 stock, in my opinion. Can Group is another one, CANN.
So Todd, when you're looking at a stock like that and it's down like that, looking at that chart, what gets you interested to add to your position? Are you buying, what
on the way down,
kind of breakout
yeah.
are you looking for?
So I'm less trying especially for Australia, I'm less trying to time it as much as I am to build exposure. I'm completely fine that Australia is dragging ass because we have a 7-figure position in this thing now, and somebody's going to wake up one day and go, oh my God, Canopy owns 10% of this thing, and Australia is going to be the service station to the Southern Hemisphere because Japan doesn't have the land to grow. Awesome. Let's buy some more of this. Can Group, CANN, Aurora owns, I think, 22% of this one. And you start talking about if there's a bit of a hiccup around UN, legalization of Canada, you get a little bit of a freeze up from the international community, who's going to benefit? Australia, Latin America, we bought some Latin American exposure. So that's sort of the growth hedge there. Here's another one. This is Can Group. It's done absolutely nothing except base since January, right? 22% owned by Aurora, Southern Hemisphere, the service station. I don't know. I mean, I'll trade the majors in Canada and I'll invest in the U.S. names, but there's a handful of biotechs down under also that are trading like at 7 cents, 8 cents, and we just bought a couple million, and we're like, okay, put that on a different sheet because I don't want to look at that every day. But in 5 years, maybe you get a Canopy, or maybe you get a Tilray, or maybe that's how we're this is our our incubation strategy because this is where Australia is on the curve relative to Canada, relative to U.S., which could maybe like this next week, but you gotta look through the smoke. So that's how we're sort of looking at it. We're trying to tier our exposure across not only geographies and verticals, but also duration.
So you have shorter term and longer term as far as trade strategies, what it sounds like, for some of your
Well,
positions or entries.
we like to think that the names that we buy, we're buying, for a long time. But like for Tilray, we own Tilray, we got some in the IPO, and when it got to a certain point, I'm too embarrassed to tell you what that point is, we're like, okay, is this the best use of our capital? Yeah, like we want to stay in the winners, but if this is trading here and this is trading here, what's the better probability of success? Now, if I had a crystal ball, I'd say I should have just put all my money in Tilray, sold it at 300 yesterday, and I come in here and I'm like, hey guys, why didn't you buy Tilray? Ha, you're short. Life doesn't work that way.
We talked about that on the desk yesterday, that, the obvious trade is.
If you bought $1 billion Apple on the open and during its IPO, you'd be worth, good luck with that. Just remember, there's going to be sick drawdowns. People are going to claim victory on the short side. It's going to happen. Apple had a 92% drawdown. Amazon had a couple of 90-something% drawdowns. And you don't want to ride them down for sure, but it's the nature of the beast. It's just part of it. You just got to find your discipline and marry it with conviction and just try to, give yourself a good chance to win. My point is, you can try to capture the next 20, 30 points until we're on the downside, or you can look out and accumulate wealth. I know that's not your game, but the opportunity is there if you want to do the work.
So for the next quarter, what would would be the best focus for us, for like shorter term traders, to focus on within this sector?
You're doing, it's the frog, what is it, the scorpion and the toad. You guys are doing what you do, right? You're finding the Tilray, you're playing your price patterns. It's a different, job description than what I'm doing. Like if I'm looking to trade these names, probably doing a lot of the things you guys are doing. I think Tilray is potentially toxic just because this is a lot of different things that are happening, and I think ultimately it settles lower. But like I said, when I get I've never gotten squeezed for 100 points into anything, and to get out of a put spread for $1, I was like, thank you God, I will never ever trade the stock again. So, but I think you guys, sorry, spit all over you. You guys are doing exactly what I think you should be doing. I would learn more names if you could trade Canada, less crowded. Everybody's chasing the three, Goldilocks on NASDAQ and New York, Kronos, CGC and Tilray, but like, you take a step out of your comfort zone, you got a whole new world to trade. And, it's just a different dynamic because Canadians are, Canadians. I love the Canadians, but it's just, you don't have the U.S. sort of animal spirit, bastardization, hijacking of these stocks. Like, I think what's going on at Tilray is really bad for my space. Because it's like, my investors like, hey, I'm short it, I'm short it. But B, it's sending the wrong signal. And maybe that's a good thing because everybody's going to try to bet on its demise, but I think there's real opportunities for generational opportunities to accumulate wealth here. You just got to do the work.
What are your thoughts on Aurora?
We call Aurora Poly because Poly's doesn't have to move faster anyway. It's now digesting Canamed, Med Relief. It's just I'll tell you, I was lukewarm on it for a while because I felt like they were spending like a drunken sailor. But the management team is actually very smart, and we'll see. Like everybody's talking about these deals, and I think the reason they haven't gotten a deal with a Coke is because on one side you got a Constellation Canopy type of $4 billion cash infusion, and then you have Hexo and Molson. Like, let's build a beverage business together. Two different implications for your business, right? Short term and long term. I think the Canopy deal is what everybody's sort of expecting, and I think the Molson deal is sort of what that side of the room is expecting. So but make no mistake, there's a buy build, and you're going to see it hit biotech and healthcare as sure as I'm sitting here. You're going to see it. We said it last week for those who were on Twitter. I said the next phase is going to be biotech, cannabis, and on Q. So this is just respect respect the process, you know, like you guys have your own process. I can't tell you what your process is. I can't tell you what my process is. And, you know, I think there's a lot more stocks you could be looking at where you're gonna get the volatility. I mean, okay, maybe it's only 20% a day.
So is LXRP something you're excited about fundamentally, or is it more?
Sexy Lexi? Yes.
Okay.
And if it can get through.
Because the chart looks great.
Yeah, if she can get through 235, you know,
Buy
that-
more?
I mean, if you get through 235, and we own a bunch, I don't want to sell it because I think once it gets through 235, then you just lean against that all day. But if, you know, this is in the right space, it's got patents, the risk here is that, you know, these companies that are flush with cash are going to start to develop their own, but they got patents, and this is a buy build. I mean, that's a beautiful cup and handle if I ever saw one. If you draw the line across those two tops there, you'll see the 235 level that I talked about. It's, you know, and this is in, I think, the HMMJ, so it's going to, with that breaking out, that's going to pull up, you know, get a rebalancing tomorrow also. Lots of moving parts.
Was there any news with Torre getting added to the?
I'm sure.
Johnny tweeted about.
Well, he said to me, what do you think? Why is this going up? I said, well, it's got the low float, and then it's got index buying, and you have, you know, taxi, you know. I've seen this movie before, you know. Hey, should I buy Tilray? It's usually closer to a top than a bottom. So, like, a pretty harsh pullback would not shock me. I'm actually got a fair amount of cash waiting for it, but, you know, you don't want to sell the ones you like, especially the ones that are real cheap relative to its peers, because any pullback is just a gift. The one thing that it took me a long time, I've been trading 30 years, took me a long time to get, and it's just the ability to view prices as an opportunity rather than a hindrance. You know, like, we all had positions go against us, and we're like, fuck, right? That's a defeatist mindset. If you can start to think about, you know, how could this benefit me? Is this an opportunity to add more? Like yesterday, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I had a fair amount of, I saw these stocks breaking out, I started to add some, and then, you know, and I'm sitting there last night going, geez, you know, I think I broke my discipline yesterday. I'm buying the stocks, I walk in, they're all gapping up this morning, right? Like, you get lucky sometimes, but process, right? And once they got back to those levels, I took the overage off because, you know, course correct. Still there, but I want to have power to buy the dislocations on the downside, because that's where you're going to get the best averages. You're not going to get averages just paying up like everything else. Different style of trading, right? This is why, you know, well, suffice to say, I've always been a fader. I like to take the other side, and in a market that's one way, that's the wrong style. So, yeah.
You talked about some of the guys you follow. So in the research world, we talk about the hammers to follow. Any of the guys you would view as hammers that are go-to people for you that are?
Well, like I said, Canaccord, Canaccord and GMP are great, and I don't know if, you know, just from a sell side standpoint. In terms of follows, I think Alan Bronstein does a good job. It seems to be genuine and honest, and I think that's sort of like the two boxes I look to check first. In the space, I think Tom Angel is another guy, but that's more in policy. If anybody here doesn't get our morning note and our weekend recap, you know, you can go to cb1cap.com and sign up. It's really good. And just, you know, I'm a trader. I've been doing this for a long time. But to have the passion, you know, for a segment of the market that really is offsides, I'm talking offsides from a price standpoint, from a time standpoint, from a perception standpoint, from a liquidity standpoint. You know, you don't see many opportunities like this in your lifetime. I mean, cannabis and hemp have been used for 10,000 years. And all of a sudden, in 1933, a couple politicians to take care of a few of the elites say, you know what, we're gonna not only make this illegal, but we're gonna start arresting people who don't look like us because, you know, they're peddling this. And then to perpetuate that propaganda, it's just fucking bullshit. And it pisses me off. I'm sorry. It's criminal. I'm going to definitely get arrested for saying that. But this is a chance to really be on the right side of history. And I'm saying that as a trader, and I'm saying that as a person. So I think you want to look at long setups, because you're going to have wind at your backs for a very long time as institutions chase growth. Because there's not many segments. You have 300 billion in flowers and cash crop moving into a ubiquitous array of end products and use cases. There's not enough stocks in the equity universe to satisfy or to express that point of view. and that's going to change. So, like I said, you capture the next 50, maybe you capture 100 points of Tilray, but there's thousands of points on the long side, in my opinion. Just not all in a straight line. Presumably. I went out on, right before I went to fast for Yom Kippur, I'm like, Tilray and GWPH both trading at 150. Let's see who gets to 300 first. I got GW money. Then I checked in from Temple and Tilray's trading at 300 money. Bananas. But hopefully this helped today, guys. Like I said, you got a good Sherman here. Got good people. So
Thanks for coming in, Todd.
Yeah.
We'll get some.
by the way, you're totally lying about the beer and the pizza.
It's coming.
Yeah.
The pizza's it's here.
It's here. We will follow through on that. But thanks a lot for coming in.
Yep.
A lot of the guys in the room follow you, and some of the guys are a little bit out of the country. Looking forward to hearing what we have to say as well.
Good. Well, like I said, anything I can do for you guys. I'm
Raph
happy.
thinks you're a genius. Raph had one of your better days today, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think Tilray gets bought out? Because I'm sure.
Not at these levels.
Oh, okay.
They should buy everybody because every deal they buy is accretive. They could buy NASA to be accretive. It's bananas. But there's better situations. Like, remember A Beautiful Mind. When you start looking at Tilray tomorrow, just remember A Beautiful Mind. There's a lot of, Tilray's got a lot of friends.
And on that note, let's eat.
Yes.
Go ahead and click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of our trading videos produced for the trading community. Please add your feedback in the comments section for what videos you'd like us to produce next and what you found helpful from this video. From all of us at SMB, trade well.